So my topic is about Section 9, Section 10, Section 11 of Presidential Decree 1594. CI1. Variation orders, change order, or extra work orders or supplemental agreement. 1. Variation orders. Concerned agency, office, or corporation. Introduction of new work items that are not included in the original contract. Work items, change of plans, design, or alignment disparity between the pre-construction plans used for purposes of building and D as stake plans or construction drawings prepared after a joint survey by the contractor and the government after award of the contract. The addition or deletion of works as and awarded a variation of order may either be the form of a change order, extra work or order of a supplemental agreement. Number 2. Change order. Implementing official to cover any increase or decrease in quantities of original work items contract. A. Where the aggregate cost of change orders is limited to 25% of the escalated original contract cost, provided that no major pay item, example, pay item which represent at least 20% of total estimated cost of the contract, shall be increased by more than 100% of its original cost. All change orders shall be subjected to price adjustment in accordance with duly approved guidelines. B. Where there is a decreased or increased in original work items under the contract due to necessary deletion or addition of work items or sections of the project. C. Where there is damage to structure and or destruction of finished work in any section of the project due to force majeure or cost beyond the control of man. 3. For a unit price contract, quantity overruns. Not more than 15% of the estimates per major pay item and 25% per minor pay item in the bill of quantities need not to be covered by change order provided that the same is authorized by the approving authority for the contract. 4. An extra work order. Implementing official. Introduction of new work items after the same has been found to strictly comply with Section C1 1-1. A. Where there are additional works needed and necessary for completion, improvement, or protection of the project which were not included as items of work in the original contract. B. Where there are subsurface or latent physical conditions at the site differing materially from those indicated in the contract. C. Where there are unknown physical conditions at the site of an unusual nature differing materially from those ordinarily encountered and generally recognized as inherent in the work or character provided for in the contract. D. Where there are duly approved construction drawings or any instruction issued by the implementing office or agency during the term of contract which involve extra costs. Number 5. Change order or extra work orders. Contract upon the approval of competent authorities. Does not exceed the limits of the former's authority to approve original contract. 6. A separate supplemental agreement. Change orders and extra work orders exceed 25% of the escalated original contract price. All change orders or extra work orders beyond 100% of the escalated original contract cost public bidding. 7. Any variation orders, change order, extra work order, or supplemental agreement shall be subject to the escalation formula used to adjust the original contract price less the cost of mobilization. In claiming for any variation, the contractor shall, within 7 calendar days after such work has been commenced or after the circumstances leading to such conditions, leading to the extra cost, and within 28 calendar days, deliver a written communication giving full and detailed particulars of any extra cost in order that it may be investigated at the time. Failure to provide either of such notices in the time stipulated shall constitute a waiver by the contractor for any claim. The preparation and submission of change orders, extra work orders, or supplemental orders are as follows. A. If the project engineer believes that a change order, extra work order, or supplemental agreement should be issued, he shall prepare the proposed order or supplemental agreement accompanied with the notices submitted by the contractor, the plans, therefore, his computations as to the quantities of additional works involved per item, indicating the specifications where such work are needed, the date of his inspections and investigations thereon, and the logbook thereof, and the detailed estimate of the unit cost of such item of work, together with his justifications for the need of such change order, extra work order, or supplemental agreement, and shall submit the same to the regional director or of office, agency, corporation concerned. B. He, regional director concerned, upon receipt of the proposed change order, extra work order, or supplemental agreement, shall immediately instruct the technical staff of the region to conduct an on-the-spot investigation to verify the need for the work to be prosecuted. A report of such verification shall be submitted directly to the regional director concerned. C. Regional director concerned, after being satisfied that such change order, extra work order, or supplemental agreement is justified and necessary, shall review the estimated quantities and prices and forward the proposal with the supporting documentation to the head of office, agency, corporation for consideration. D. If after review of the plans, quantities, estimated unit cost of the items of work involved, the proper office, agency, corporation committee empowered to review and evaluate change orders, extra work orders, or supplemental agreements recommends approval thereof, the head of office, agency, corporation, believing the change order, extra work order, or supplemental agreement to be in order, shall approve the same. The limits of approving authority for any individual and the aggregate of change orders, extra work order, or supplemental agreement for any project of the head of office, agency, corporation shall not be greater than those granted for an original project. E. The time frame for the processing of variation orders from the preparation up to the approval by the implementing agency concerned shall not exceed 30 calendar days. CI2. Additional or extra work costing. Number 1. Additional extra works necessary to and within the general scope of the contract should be cost whether they are covered by change order or extra work orders. The contractor shall be paid for additional work items whose unit prices shall be derived based on the following. A. For additional or extra works duly covered by change orders involving work items which are exactly the same or similar to those in the original contract, the applicable unit prices of work items original contract shall be used. B. For additional or extra works duly covered by extra work order involving new work items that are not in the original contract, the unit prices of the new work items shall be derived as follows. Number 1. Each component of the new work item shall be based on the direct unit cost used in the original contract. Example: unit cost of cement, rebars, farm lumber, labor rate, equipment rental, etc., and updated to price levels as of the date agreed upon by the government and the contractor using appropriate NSO indices as follows. New unit cost. Original cost multiplied by P1 over PU, where P1 equals appropriate NSO index during the agreed upon date or month. PU. Appropriate NSO index at the month of bidding or negotiated bidding. Number 2. All new components of the new work item shall be based on prices prevailing at that agreed date or month, provided the same is acceptable to both the government and the contractor. and provided further the direct unit cost of new component shall be based on the top contractor's estimate as validated by the agency concerned via documented canvas in accordance with the existing rules and regulations. Number 3. These two shall be combined to arrive at the direct cost of the new work item. It shall be then combined with the markup factor, example, taxes and profit, used by the contractor in his bid to determine the unit price of the new work item. The reckoning date for the price escalation purposes shall be the date or month as agreed upon by both parties. 2. The cost of the extra work done shall be submitted at the intervals to be determined by the project engineer in a satisfactory form which shall be approved or adjusted at once by the government. Request for payment by the contractor for any extra work shall be accompanied by a statement with the approved supporting forms, giving a detailed accounting and record of amount for which he claims payment. Said request for payment shall be included with the contractor's statement for progress payment. CI3. Conditions under which contractor is to start work under variation orders and receive payment. Number 1. Under no circumstances shall a contractor proceed to commence work under any change order, extra work order, or supplemental agreement unless it has been approved by the Secretary or his duly authorized representative. Exceptions to the preceding rule are the following. A. The regional director or its equivalent position in agencies, office, corporations without plantilla position for the same may subject to the availability of funds authorize the immediate start of work under any change or extra work order under any or all of the following conditions. Number 1. In the event of an emergency where the prosecution of the work is urgent to avoid detriment to public service or damage to life and or property and or number 2, when time is of the essence, provided, however, that such approval is valid on work done to the point where the cumulative increase in value of work on the project which has not yet been fully approved does not exceed 5% of the adjusted original contract price, or 500,000, whichever is less. Change or extra work order shall be prepared and submitted for approval in accordance with the above rules herein set. Payments for work satisfactorily accomplished or on any change or extra work order may be made only after approval of the same by the Secretary or his duly authorized representative. B. For a change or extra work order involving a cumulative amount exceeding 5% of the original contract price or original adjusted contract price, no work thereon may be commenced unless said change or extra work order has been approved by the Secretary or his duly authorized representative. CI4. Advance Payment. Number 1. The government shall, upon a written request of the contractor which shall be submitted as a contract document, make an advance payment to the contractor in an amount equal to 15% of the total contract price, to be made in lump sum or at the most two installments according to a schedule specified in the instructions to bidders and other relevant tender documents. Number 2. The advance payment shall be made only upon the submission and acceptance by the government of an irrevocable standby letter of credit of equivalent value from a commercial bank or a guarantee payment bond, callable on demand, issued by a surety or insurance company duly licensed by the Office of the Insurance Commissioner and confirmed by the implementing agency. Number 3. The advance payment shall be repaid by the contractor by deducting 20% from his periodic progress payments, with the first repayment to be made when the contract value of the work executed and materials delivered shall equal or have exceeded 20% of the contract price, and further refund shall be done thereafter at monthly intervals. The first work accomplishment equivalent to 20% of the contract shall not be subject to 20% deduction. Number 4. The contractor may reduce his standby letter of credit or guarantee instrument by the amount refunded by the monthly certificates in advance payment. CI5 Progress Payment. Number 1. Once a month or for an accomplish of at least 1 million, the contractor may submit a request for payment for work accomplished. Such request for payment shall be verified and certified by the government project engineer, except as otherwise stipulated in the instruction to bidders. Materials and equipment delivered on the site but not completely put in place shall not be included for payment. Number 2. The government shall have the right to deduct from the contractor progress billing such amount as may be necessary to cover third-party liabilities as well as uncorrected discovered defects in the project. CI6 Retention Money. Number 1. Progress payments are subject to retention of 10%, referred to as the retention money. Such retention shall be based on the total amount due to the contractor prior to any deduction and shall be retained from every progress payment until 50% of the value of works as determined by the government are completed. If, after 50% completion, the work is satisfactorily done and on schedule, no additional retention shall be made. Otherwise, the 10% retention shall be imposed. Number 2. The total retention money shall be due for release upon final acceptance of the works. The contractor may, however, request for the substitution of the retention money for each progress billing with survey bond calculable on demand of amounts equivalent to the retention money substituted for and acceptable to the government, provided that the project on schedule and is satisfactorily undertaken. Otherwise, the 10% retention shall be made. Said surety bonds to be posted in favor of government shall be valid for a duration to be determined by the concerned government implementing agency and will answer for the purpose which the 10% retention is intended. Example, to cover uncorrected discovered defects and third-party liabilities. CI7 Contract Completion. Number 1. Once the project reaches an accomplishment of 95% of the total contract amount, the government may create an inspectorate team to make preliminary inspection and submit a punch list to the contractor in preparation for the final turnover of the project. Said punch list will contain, among others, the remaining work deficiencies for necessary corrections, and the specific duration time to fully complete the project, considering the approved remaining contract time as of the date of contract suspension. This, however, shall not preclude the government's claim for liquidated damages, nor the contract's claim for incentive bonus, as the case may be. CI 8. Liquidated damages. Number 1. Where the contractor refuses or fails to satisfactorily complete the work within the specified contract time plus any time extension duly granted and is hereby in default under the contract, the contractor shall pay the government for liquidated damages, and not by way of penalty, an amount to be determined in accordance with damage with the following formula for each calendar day of delay until the work is completed and accepted or taken over by the government. The head of agency may also impose additional liquidated damages on the contractor provided such is prescribed in the instructions to bidders. Number 2. A project or a portion thereof may be deemed usable when it starts to provide the desired benefits as certified by the targeted end users and the concerned agency. Number 3. To be entitled to such liquidated damages, the government does not have to prove that it has incurred actual damages. Such amount shall be deducted from any money due or which may become due to the contractor under the contract and or collect such liquidated damages from the retention money or the other securities posted by the contractor, whichever is convenient to the government. Number 4. In case that the delay in the completion of the work exceed a time duration equivalent to 20% of the specified contract time plus any time extension duly granted to the contractor, the office, agency, or corporation concerned may forfeit the contract performance security and take over the prosecution of the project, or award the same to a qualified contractor through the negotiated contract. Number 5. In no case, however, shall the total sum of liquidated damages exceed 15% of the total contract price, in which event the contract shall automatically be taken over by the office, agency, or corporation concerned, or award the same to a qualified contractor through negotiation, and the erring contractor's performance security shall be forfeited. The amount of the forfeited performance security shall be aside from the amount of liquidated damages that the contractor shall pay the government under the provision of this clause. Number 6. For terminated contracts no, where no negotiation shall be undertaken, the procedures prescribed under Section 10.4.2.1 shall be adopted. CI-7. Contract completion. Number 1. Once the project reaches an accomplishment of 95% of the total contract amount, the government may create an inspectorate team to make preliminary inspection and submit a punch list to the contractor in preparation for the final turnover of the project. Said punch list will contain, among others, the remaining work deficiencies for necessary corrections, and the specific duration time to fully complete the project, considering the approved remaining contract time as of the date of contract suspension. This, however, shall not preclude the government's claim for liquidated damages, nor the contract's claim for incentive bonus, as the case may be. CI 8. Liquidated damages. Number 1. Where the contractor refuses or fails to satisfactorily complete the work within the specified contract time plus any time extension duly granted and is hereby in default under the contract, the contractor shall pay the government for liquidated damages, and not by way of penalty, an amount to be determined in accordance with damage with the following formula for each calendar day of delay until the work is completed and accepted or taken over by the government. The head of agency may also impose additional liquidated damages on the contractor provided such is prescribed in the instructions to bidders. Number 2. Number 2. A project or a portion thereof may be deemed usable when it starts to provide the desired benefits as certified by the targeted end users and the concerned agency. Number 3. To be entitled to such liquidated damages, the government does not have to prove that it has been incurred actual damages. Such amount shall be deducted from any money due or which may become due the contractor under the contract, and or collect such liquidated damages from the retention money or other securities posted by the contractor, whichever is convenient to the government. Number 4. In case that the delay in the completion of the work exceed the time duration equivalent to 20% of the specified contract time plus any time extension duly granted to the contractor, the office, agency, corporation concerned may forfeit the contractor's performance security and take over the prosecution of the project, or award the same to a qualified contractor through negotiated contract. 5. In no case, however, shall the total sum of liquidated damages exceed 15% of the total contract price, in which event the contract shall automatically be taken over by the office, agency, or corporation concerned, or award the same to a qualified contractor through negotiation, the erring contractor's performance security shall be forfeited. The amount of the forfeited performance security shall be aside from the amount of liquidated damages that the contractor shall pay the government under the provision of this clause. Number 6. Terminated contracts where negotiation shall be undertaken. The procedures prescribed under Section IB 10.4.2.1 shall be adopted. CI 9. Incentive bonus. For major and urgent projects, except for negotiated contracts and provided that the instructions to bidders and other tender and contract documents so prescribe, if the contractor completes the contract works ahead of schedule without any suspension order, effected or extension of contract time granted, he may be given a bonus for saving the government additional expenses for engineering and inspection services and for allowing the government the early use of the completed facilities in an amount to be determined in accordance with the following formula but not exceed 10% of the contract price. 2. The completion of a project ahead of schedule shall also be considered a plus factor in favor of the contractor in assessing or evaluating the pre-qualification for future projects. CI 10. Suspension of work. The government or its duly authorized representative shall have the authority to suspend the work wholly or partly by written order for such period as may be deemed necessary, due to force majeure or any fortitude events, or for failure on the part of the contractor to correct bad conditions which are unsafe for workers, or for the general public to carry out valid orders given by the government, or to perform any provisions of the contract, or due to adjustment of plans to suit field conditions as found necessary during construction. The contractor shall immediately comply with such order to suspend the work wholly or partly. Number 2. The contractor or its duly authorized representative shall have the right to suspend the work operation on any or all projects activities along the critical path of activities after 15 calendar days from date of receipt or of written notice from the contractor to the district engineer, regional director, consultant, as the case may be, due to the following. A. There exist right-of-way problems which prohibit the contractor from performing work in accordance with the approved construction schedule. B. Requisite construction plans which must be owner furnished are not issued to the contractor, precluding any work called for by such plans. C. Peace and order condition make it extremely dangerous, if not possible, to work. However, this condition must be certified in writing by the Philippine National Police or PNP station, which has responsibility over the affected area, and confirmed by the Department of Interior and Local Government or DILG Regional Director. D. There is failure on the part of the government to deliver government furnished materials and equipment as stipulated in the contract. E. Delay in the payment of contractor's claim for progress billing and or price escalation beyond 45 calendar days from the time the contractor's claim has been certified to by the implementing agency authorized representative that the documents are completed unless there are justifiable reasons thereof which shall be communicated in writing to the contractor. 3. In case of total suspension or suspension of activities along the critical path, which is not due to any fault of the contractor, the elapsed time between the effective order or suspending operation and the order to resume work shall be allowed the contractor by adjusting the contract time accordingly. CI 11. Extension of contract time. Should the amount of additional work or any kind or other special circumstances of any kind or of any kind whatsoever occur such to fairly entitle the contractor to an extension of contract time, the government shall determine the amount of such extension, provided that the government is not bound to take into account any claim for an extension of the time unless contractor has prior B the the expiration of the contract time, and within 30 calendar days after such work has been commenced, or after the circumstance leading to such claim have arisen, delivered to the government notices in order that it could have investigated them at the time. Failure to provide such notice shall constitute a waiver to the contractor of any claim. Upon receipt of full delay and detailed particulars, the government shall examine the facts and the extent of the delay and shall extend the contract time completing the contract work when, in the government opinion, the findings of facts justify an extension. Number 2. No extension of contract time shall be granted to the contractor due to A. Ordinary unfavorable weather conditions. B. Inexcusable failure or negligence of contractor to provide the required equipment, supplies, or materials. C. Other causes for which government is not directly responsible. 3. Extension of contract time may be granted only when the affected activities fall within the critical path of the PERT or CPM network. 4. No extension of contract time shall be granted when the reason given to support the request for extension was already considered in the determination of the original contract time, during the conduct of detailed engineering, and in the preparation of the contract documents as prescribed under Section 1.4. Detailed engineering as agreed upon by the parties before contract perfection. Number 5. Extension of contract time shall be granted for rainy or unworkable days considered unfavorable for the prosecution of the works at the site, based on the actual condition obtained at the site for such period in excess of the number of rainy and unworkable days predetermined by the government in accordance with Section 1.4 hereof. Detailed engineering and/or for the equivalent period of delay due to major calamities such as exceptionally destructive typhoons, floods and earthquakes, and epidemics, and for causes such as non-delivery time on time of materials, working drawings, or written information to be furnished by the government, non-acquisition of permit to enter private properties or properties within the right of way resulting in complete paralyzation of construction activities, and other meritorious causes as determined by the government, authorized engineer, and approved by the government shortage of construction material, general labor strikes, and peace and order problems that disrupt construction operations through no fault of the contractor may be considered as additional grounds for extension of contract time, provided that they are publicly felt certified certified by appropriate government agencies such as DTI, DOLE, DILG, and DND, among others, provided further that the written consent of bondsmen must be attached to any request of the contractor for extension of contract time and submitted to the government for consideration, and that the validity of the performance security shall be correspondingly extended. CI 12. Contract Price Escalation. CI 12.1. Guidelines on contract price escalation. Number 1. These guidelines for the computation and payment of price escalations shall apply to existing infrastructure contract as of August 27, 1980, where a specific price escalation clause is not provided therein, or where there is no specified methodology for the calculation of price escalation. All infrastructure contracts entered into after the date of effectivity of these guidelines shall employ the escalation method using the parametric formulae provided for in these guidelines. Formulae other than the prescribed herein may also be used for the price escalation purposes, provided that the adoption of the same is clearly stipulated in the tender and contract documents provided to tenderers prior to the bidding and agreed upon by the government and the contractor, Equipment supply contracts, whether or not included as an integral part of the infrastructure contract, shall not be covered by this provision. 2. The respective implementing officers shall determine all price escalation in accordance with these guidelines. 3. A committee shall be created by the NEDA Committee on Infrastructure, which shall review periodically the parametric formulae for the computation of contract price escalation herein specified, and shall revise the same whenever necessary. Such revision to be made effective upon the approval by the NEDA Committee on Infrastructure. The revised or updated parametric formulae, if any, shall apply to works to be accomplished on a project after the effectivity or approval of such revisions. 4. For ongoing contracts and contracts bid out by or by vet by but yet unawarded as of December 31, 1990, the unit prices for the remaining balance of work based on the approved or revised construction schedule, including any time extension granted, shall be updated using the current parametric formulae to January 1991. Prices with the original unit prices multiplied by the fluctuation factors without the 5% deduction. Such updated unit prices as of January 1991 shall be used as basis for computing regular progress billings thereafter. Any price escalation after January 1, 1991 shall be calculated using the new parametric formulae herein prescribed as applied to the updated unit prices as of January 1, 1991. 5. All price escalation to be granted may be approved by the Secretary or head of office, agency, corporation concerned in accordance with the Section 8 of Presidential Decree 1594 to become effective. Payments for price escalation on works accomplished on a project beginning January 1, 1990 may be made by the Secretary and or agency head concerned irrespective of the amount involved. For works accomplished prior to January 1, 1990, payments for price escalation may be made by the Secretary or agency head concerned within the limit of authority specified under the previously amended implementing rules and regulation as the case may be. 6. Escalation of prices for work accomplishment on infrastructure, construction, rehabilitation, and or improvement projects shall be made periodically using the parametric formula as described below to compensate for fluctuation of prices of construction supplies and materials, equipments, and labor which would bring about during the period under consideration an increase or decrease of more than 5% of the original or adjusted contract unit price of items or of work price. Number 7. Price escalation shall be reckoned from the month of bidding of the project and shall be allowed for every progress billing when the contract has not been the subject of competitive bidding. Price escalation shall be reckoned from the month agreed upon in the contract and shall be granted for every progress billing for construction and in the contract and related materials under government. Controlled prices. The computation of price escalation shall be reckoned from the actual date of bidding the project or the actual date agreed upon in the contract has not been subject of competitive project. 8. In case that the project is behind schedule by more than 5% from the approved PERT or CPM network on the date when computation of price escalation is scheduled, computation on such portion of the ETERC that should have been but was not actually accomplished within the period in accordance with the PERT or CPM network shall be reckoned on the basis of the escalation rate applicable during the period in which it should have been accomplished. Payment of the computed amount shall not be made until the project activities for the period under consideration as covered by such amount are completed. This shall not in any way affect the final date of completion. 9. Payments for price escalation of work accomplished within the period shall be based on actual escalation amount computed in accordance with appropriate indices provided in the formulae under this clause or expressly stipulated in the contract. Number 10. In case of some project where advance payment of mobilization purposes and or purchases of supplies and materials is made, it is only fair to the government that the price escalation shall not be made on items of work or components thereof to which such advance payments are applied, since these monies are received by the contractor in advance and may be used for the payment of expenditures in in connection with the prosecution of the project. Hence, in calculating price escalation for contracts entered into after the effectivity of these guidelines, no price escalation shall be made for A. That portion of work accomplished during the period corresponding to a value equal to the amount of equipment of advance payment. For example, if during the 6 months period under consideration, 10% of the amount payable to the contract period was recouped to recover advance payment. 10% likewise of the price escalation calculated to be otherwise payable shall be deducted from the price escalation. B. That amount of materials for which advance payment is made, usually such advance payment when made is equal to 75% of the cost of material purchased therefrom. Since the funds were logically used by the contractor to purchase at the same price, it is not fair to the government that he should both profit from making such advance purchases and at the same time enjoy interest-free such funds. In those cases where the contractor enjoys such advance payments, an interest charge or one-on-one or 1.1/4% per month pay- payments on the outstanding balance shall be imputed from the time he receives the advance payment, and the equivalent amount shall be deducted the next succeeding price escalation payment in lieu in LIEU of deducting the portion of price escalation corresponding to such materials. No payment or imputed interest charge under this paragraph shall be collected in excess of price escalation payment for the period.